So for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure all of you do know, Antihero podcast, big old podcast, went after Tim Kennedy, went after Rob O'Neill, went after Shrek, and really exposed a lot of the lies coming out of the special forces book community, right? The special forces to, what's the right word? Podcaster pipeline, right? Because it's like, oh, you were in Delta, you were a SEAL. It's like, here's your book deal, and now you're famous e-celebrity. Let me try and find this video because I want to make sure that I'm giving the guy credit for it, and so you guys can see the full video should you want to. But the full video comes courtesy of Mickey. What is his actual name? I always forget. Nikki, that's it, not Mickey. So I'm going to drop the link to his video and channel if you want to watch the full thing. The full video is 20 minutes long. I cut it down to about 13 minutes, and I blurred out some images in it because some of them are very gross. I cut out a lot of the most disgusting, disturbing things from the video regarding Tyler of the Antihero podcast. Tyler was basically one half. He was kind of the cop side of it, while Brent was the CAG side of it, if you will. So they were kind of this duo that was famous for going after people, especially very big, very public figures who had been on some of the biggest podcasts in the world, told a lot of lies, and then got called out for it. Now, the problem is when you start throwing stones in glass houses and you go after some of the most powerful people in the industry with lots of connections, well, it turns out that they are, or their fans and themselves are going to look into you. So your nose had better be clean on the matter. So you should go over to Nikki MGT TV, or MGTV, sorry. The original video comes from about 20 minutes long. I edited it down for your viewing displeasure.
You think anyone noticed that we left? Hey, Drew, you think anyone noticed that we left?
There was allegations against me, and then they went nowhere. So there were allegations against me again. To this day, have not been investigated criminally about any of this because it's just so there's no proof.
And yes, this is the Tyler gentleman here, which all the allegations are going to be about in this video.
There's no nothing. There's literally, I could do right now on this phone what you guys saw and then go, he did this, right? So.
Yeah, this is a rabbit hole. I don't know how deep it's going to go, but we have some more documentation evidence.
Now, if you're not familiar with Nikki also did a reaction video of Nate's crash out on our stream. Nate from Valhalla VFT. I hope he's doing quite well. But he and Trench were going at it, and there were some very, very memorable clips from that. Him laughing and saying his dad's a lawyer while you know, yelling at Trench. I thought was quite funny. I think that was a top 10 stream of all time.
Skibbity toilet Riz. Okay.
So Nikki's used some of our content before, so I think it's only fair to return the favor.
Evidence against the Antihero podcast, including the host Tyler, which, if you guys forget, was with Brent Tucker, which he recently posted this about him going live and starting a new podcast called Tier-1.
Hey, Drew, you think anyone noticed that we left?
And a Vet Bro podcast that's fallen apart, which includes Brent Tucker.
If you check out the Antihero podcast, he's no longer on that platform.
He said, did you and Brent break up, Tyler? I noticed all of his stuff is out of the studio.
Possible, but he's starting. That's me right there. That's me. And we have Richard as a Tito pair. We got Motto in the chat, and then I think that's Jake or Anon at the bottom. It's in such low quality I can't even tell. Let me see. So I should be able to figure it out. Who is that guy? No, it's in so low quality I can't even tell, even on the original.
Another podcast from scratch, though, right? So what does that tell you?
Because there's a podcast out there. I don't know if you know it, just disbanded.
This is actually sad what Antihero has become. Brent must be big mad to leave.
And that is, of course, in reference to the new Tier-1 podcast, which is now the new Brent Tucker podcast with a few other guys. So Antihero podcast is no more. It is now Antihero broadcast. So, and then you have the Tier-1 podcast, which is Brent. And Tyler is continuing on with Antihero, although viewership has died. Like, I mean, quite literally died.
I bet we're.
So yeah, you can see that he says he's going to explain everything, but there is a lot of stuff in these documents that made people wonder why they were splitting up. If you forget, we're covering this because there were ethical concerns or moral concerns that happened as they were covering issues with Tim Kennedy and other military influencer veterans, whatever, and essentially we're bashing them. But now it looks like the rocks are being thrown against Antihero podcast, and people are wondering if Brent Tucker knew about a lot of these issues before he left, and if this is why he left. This is a official document from the Florida Police Department over at Orange County, where they conducted what is a professional standards section investigation against Tyler. And I will tell you that the foundings are not there, but I understand there's what can be legally proven, and then there's like public opinion of what can be proven or what people believe. And I feel like this is a public interest in order to understand what has happened with Tim Kennedy's situation, the fallout of this, and also.
Now, it is very important to note that these are all allegations, and there was an investigation, and we'll get to the conclusion of the investigation at the end of this video, but it is essentially nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's like if a crime was committed, it's past the statute of limitations. It appears that something may have happened, but it is now irrelevant. So it's a very specific law to do with Florida and prostitution, essentially, right? Soliciting sex, which is illegal down there, and Venmo payments, and all sorts of other wacky, degenerate things that 40-year-old brovets on TRT get into.
Also, the ethical and moral conduct of police officers in general. Now, to give you some highlights, this includes escorts, this includes golden showers, this includes Venmo payments, which are linked back to some of those that could be alleged. It includes a lot of documentation here with ex-wives, which are really crazy, but I want to cover it because this is what we do on the channel. Now, the first part of this is you have to understand how was this all tipped off. This was all from a previous partner, which they are alleging had sent some evidence to the police department via mail. And essentially, there were 9 pieces of documents that were along with this, along with a 2-page letter, essentially saying all the wrong stuff Tyler had done. Now, I am going to read some text messages that were noted in that letter because they are alleging that essentially these text messages were sent from this phone number, which, by the way, was Tyler's old phone that he had given to his ex-wife, and she had found these text messages, allegedly is what she's saying, and that they went to this number. Now, it appears the phone number, which I'm not going to list here, was hooked to a Cinch Voice or a Text Now number, which the database is associated with somebody by the name of Jasmine Hall. And this...
All right, guys, a little piece of advice here. If you are soliciting services from a woman, which you absolutely should not ever be doing in the first place, it's really lame and gay, but you shouldn't really even be associating with women named Jasmine or Cinnamon or Crystal with a K, right? I feel like all of these women lead to, they're all mentioned in Proverbs, okay, other than Proverbs 31, right? These are the type of women to avoid, all right? Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Some of them may not even be women, right? As I just cut that part out of the video, but there's a little bit more context in there for some of that.
Led back to somebody that did servicing for people, where the investigator of this situation said these photos of this person are from some kind of escort, essentially.
Yes, I blurred out the photos because Nikki did not.
And she was recognized through a database because they took that picture, referenced it to a David system, which is like a driver system where they could then match. And they said, yes, this is the same person because she has a neck tattoo. What we saw in
number 2, okay, Cinnamon, Crystal, Jasmine, okay, those names totally avoid. Never do that. Don't do that. Neck tattoos, that's another one. That's a red flag. Okay, that is a warning sign. That is a warning sign. Okay, don't ever do it. Nope.
the driving or driver's license thing had a tattoo as well. This is a positive match of who this number was texting. They are alleging that Mr. Hoover asked Miss Hall to meet at 1 p.m. and Miss Hall provided the address to meet at this location. Mr. Hoover told her to drink water, and Miss Hall asked Mr. Hoover to bring something to lay on the floor for the golden shower, like a
It is just so degenerate.
1:30 p.m. Mr. Hoover indicated he was coming from a long way because he had a long trip back. He said he did not really have a lot of time to sit around. Miss Hall agreed to meet at 1 p.m. again, and Mr. Hoover advised he ended up in Hall for the room number. First interaction of this. Now it appears there is another person of interest during this, which they said is Miss Kiara Johnson. And they were actually able to link this to that number as well and possibly identified her to a T-Mobile number, which they said was linked to this. And they said the description was noted when they searched back that it was a female escort in Daytona Beach, Florida, and the link directed to a prostitution advertisement. One advertisement depicted 5 photos of a transgender woman who offered sexual activity.
All right. Well, we're just going to skip to the end. You guys get it. That I didn't cut out enough. I should have cut it down to just basically the conclusion of it. But let's write. I'm not going to read that right here.
They are saying that the information from the web browser matches her story of the 6 o'clock situation, because it says on July 6, 2023 at around 7:40 a.m., browse an escort listing website specifically for escorts in Daytona, Florida. She also performed a telephone number search. And then again, later on in that morning, it says they access a people search engine and public records database. So looks like that story's matching up there. Now, to discuss the whole entirety of this is what happened from this investigation. What did the Orange County Police Department show from their findings of everything that was alleged?
Okay, so basically Tyler and his ex-wife, they obviously break up through some of his actions, right? And again, allegedly with some of these people of various affinities, right? But the issue here is that there's also alleged illegal activity, being the solicitation aspect of it, right? There's a messy divorce, there's children involved. However, one key factor is that none of this stuff was brought up in the actual divorce itself, and it was waited for about 2 years for any of this stuff to come out. Now, whether that was just the normal course of investigation, but the timing does seem a little bit suspect. And so you're going to get to see Tyler's side of the story in just a second.
Here. They say this investigation was conducted to determine if Tyler Hoover violated Florida law, specifically soliciting for prostitution, lewdness, or assignation in violation of this. And based on the totality of evidence and circumstances in this case, probable cause was not established that Mr. Hoover violated this or any other criminal law within Orange County. The alleged and suspected criminal activity occurred outside of Orange County. Furthermore, this case was not referred to another law enforcement agency because a prosecution for a misdemeanor of the second degree or a non-criminal violation must be commenced within 1 year after it is committed. Therefore, the time limitation for prosecution has expired. This investigation is closed. So because of all of this, we get down to the nitty-gritty. It appears that the Antihero podcast has refuted a lot of these claims, and these are some of the things they've had to say about what this document says.
Violence allegations didn't stick. So are we going to talk about who it is tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I do think is completely criminal is anyone who has tribal tattoos. I think that should be like, what, a mandatory minimum of 5 years? 10 years, right? What are we thinking? 5, 10 years for tribal tattoos, mandatory minimums? Even I mean, I'm even fine with reinstating a 3-strike rule, right? Lifetime after you get 3 of them, or after you don't get them removed after your sentences.
Yeah.
So the ex-wife decided to go another route and claim.
Yeah, barbed wire tats should be a misdemeanor, though. It's not quite as offensive as tribal tats, but I do think misdemeanor crime at least.
Other things that I've done that the people have been like, she's working with people. We'll get into it on Saturday with allegations against me.
Bro, POS says everybody got tribals in the 90s. Well, listen, it's 2025. You had 35 years to get them removed, and you didn't, right? You're still you're still a drain on society after 35 years, okay? Like you deserve time in prison after that, okay? You didn't get them removed in 35 years.
And then they went nowhere. So there were allegations against me again that people have been chomping at the bits waiting to post. And unfortunately, they're all allegations, and you can accuse a ham sandwich.
Indict a ham sandwich.
You can indict a ham sandwich, and it doesn't really matter.
Elephant in the room is nobody is talking about that. It's Kendra, his ex-wife, waited 2 years after divorce, okay? 2 years after they got divorced, and then proceeded. They're no contact. They have not talked in this whole entire time. There's no text messages, no phone calls, no nothing.
2 years.
She waits 2 years. She could have taken him to the fucking cleaners on this divorce when they got divorced in 2023.
End of 20, I think it was like January 2nd.
The finalization was January 2nd, 2024. It was filed in 2023. So why in God's green earth would you wait 2 years?
And here's my take.
Well, no, that the new batch of allegations came out recently, but the first batch, they realized that 7 years earlier, strategically it was done and they know what they did, and we'll get into it on Saturday. But the first allegations were 7 years ago
of domestic violence.
Yeah.
Yep,
And-
all Kendras are crazy. Sorry,
So,
bro.
but and from
I like how the girl in the middle is like, "Ah, Kendras are crazy," with the craziest eyes you've ever seen. Like that face has seen some things. All right, I'm sure she's a nice lady, but those eyes have seen some things. All right, but yeah, no. Anytime you get allegations like years after the fact to discredit somebody and they weren't brought up in the divorce, which almost certainly would have been great ammo for that. Like it's all just a little suspect. Now, I'm not saying that Tyler didn't do any of those things. That would be silly to assume that he did nothing, because there is again some corroborating evidence to say that he was involved with some of these individuals in certain situations, but I don't think that it has any relevance to the anti-hero breakup, which we'll get into in just a minute.
from an
Feel free,
investigator standpoint, and from all men out there, I want you to believe that if you read this document, that a woman went through her husband's phone and found what you guys saw, and didn't confront said husband, didn't bring it up in a divorce, didn't bring it up for any money, didn't blackmail his career that he was already starting, anti-hero sooner. She just
Jerry will answer
She
that.
just let it slide. I want everybody right now to give their wife their phone and let her find something of that nature in your phone. I will give you $10 million if your wife can wait 2 years to address the allegations that she brought forward. So to me, I mean it's crazy to me to think that a woman waited 2 years to bring that out. And that she
Well, I mean, we just talked about the Ben Steger situation a little while ago with a girl named Crystal, which again, just ignore, leave, run away, right? But she waited 5 years, 6 years to release a video of a yelling match, right? Which is like nothing. Who cares, right? A yelling match from 5 years ago that he went to therapy over. It's like a lot of it is to try and dogpile, and I think the timing was probably engineered, if that makes sense, to release this sort of allegations all at the same time as the podcast is breaking up. And you can tell that it did damage, because we'll go over their current numbers in just a minute. Now, if we take a look at the Antihero podcast itself, or the Antihero broadcast, sorry, my bad. Look, the views on their, again, 122,000 subs. I think they were at like 135 at one point, and they dropped a bunch. But 132 views 9 hours ago, 700 views 2 days ago, 250 views 3 days ago, 475 for 3 days ago. Like, these are bad. These are really horrifyingly bad. And if you go to their lives, let's see, this one did 2,000 views. That's not terrible. I mean, mine get like 5 times that, but it's not terrible. 1.5, 345. That's trash. 2.5, 8. That's not bad. 415, that's pretty terrible. 2.5, 4.2. So the channel is essentially dead. And so what would have been a powerhouse money-making machine for Tyler and Brent is basically gone. Now, what it looks like is that, if I had to guess, Brent is going to be doing a whole lot better. His new podcast has literally, they have 12,000 subs, which is good, right, for one video out. They have a trailer on their channel. They have one live, and it has 35,000 views. Now, will either of them be as big as they could have been had they just stuck together and not had this massive fallout? Probably not, but if I had to guess, I would say Brent is going to do just fine. Brent has the credibility, he has the background, the pedigree, so to speak, right? And so if one of them is going to be all right through this, probably not going to be Tyler, probably going to be Brent.